Hi, welcome to Campfire Chats with Honorable Outfitters. I am Mr. Dyer, and today we're going to talk about a couple stories. Now, the first story I have for you goes back a long time ago, and it was about this time of year, maybe just a little bit ahead. And I was, I think, 10, 11, or 12, something around there. So I was really, really young. I went on a camp out with my troop. Now, my troop back then, we went camping every single month, one weekend every month. It doesn't matter if it was hot, cold, wet, doesn't matter. Now, the only month that may have been different would be December because of the holiday. But every other month, we'd go camping. And it was great, because I got all these memories, I got all these stories, and it kept me involved. Camp Scouting really was kind of like my thing. That was my niche. I was all in on it. I loved hiking, I loved camping and everything. So that's kind of my start and why I'm here with you today. But I'm going to tell you two parts about my story that I will hope you can relate to and hope encourage you. I hope this encourages you, and with it, you can relate a little bit and maybe guide you or inspire you to do something about this. All right, so here's the situation. So I was a little kid, and I went on this camp out. Now, this camp out we prepared the month before, so we knew exactly how to cold weather camp, what to bring, and make sure that we were safe. And the day comes, and the day happened to be kind of a wet day. The Friday, right after school, go get our stuff packed. Might have already had it packed, I'm not sure, but we throw it in the car and we're on our way. And we go to this small local camp, and we unload right next to the camp master's cabin. The scout master is going to stay in the cabin, and we have two other adult leaders who are going to go with us. Now, we do not have any idea what the plan is. Only the adults do. Now, you may be wondering, okay, well, this is an interesting camp. What's the point of this? Like, are you guys just going to sleep in a tent or something like that? No, this particular camp out was our wilderness survival camp. And there's not too many troops anymore that really do wilderness survival camps in the winter. Back in the 90s, this was actually a fairly common thing around our area here in Ohio. There's lots of troops that would literally do their wilderness survival camp in the winter just because it really pushes you and it teaches you a lot of things. And I don't know, maybe the adventurous spirit was a little bit more vibrant back then. So anyhow, so we get our stuff out. The scoutmaster kind of gives us a briefing on safety and just kind of sets the expectation. We don't know what's going on, but just kind of sets us up for the night at least. You guys are going to go out. You're going to hike to where you're going. You're going to set up your camp, and you're going to stay there for the night. Okay, we got that. So we get our stuff loaded up on our shoulders, and we follow our two other leaders on our first hike. Now, we did a lot of hiking that weekend, and it was already starting to get kind of cold. In the spring. I think we did this maybe February or March. So it was kind of early spring, but it was still cold. And here in Ohio, February is always the coldest month. I don't know why, but February is always the coldest month. So we go out hiking, and I don't know how far we hiked. And when you're a kid, it seems like a mile. It might have been less. I don't know. But yeah, we go out into the middle of these woods, not on any improved trail or anything, and we start setting up our camp. Now, our leader said you can choose any shelter that you want, but it's getting really dark, and you guys haven't ate dinner yet, and you can't eat dinner until you have your shelter and until you have a fire lit. All right, let's get to it, right? So there's like 5 or 6 of us that came along, and, we start putting our shelter together. What we decided to do was just a simple lean-to because it was late. Lean-to doesn't require that many resources, and, it does what it needs to. So for a basics shelter, it works. But of course, a lean-to, as we build it, even though we tried to cover up the sides, it is very open to wind. But, with our training, we figured out where the prevailing wind roughly was. It was out in the woods, so there's plenty of tree covers to kind of break up the wind anyways. But we tried to figure out where the best angle would be and all that. So we built this shelter. It takes about an hour and a half, really. When it was all said and done, gathering up all of the right logs and all the pieces of wood and stuff and building it. That's how long it took. and then we got to eat. Finally, a little bit of relaxation, right? Now, the food that we're eating are MREs, military meals ready to eat, old military packets of food. Okay, so and it was good. Like everybody's kind of sharing the story. The first time I ever had an MRE, and everybody's like, "Hey, what do you got?" "Oh, I got a pack of gum." "Oh yeah, what do you got?" So anyhow, it was a good time, and we're settling down for the night. Now the fire went out rather quickly. We couldn't find really any dry wood. So we're pretty much reliant just on our layers and what we had brought with us. Now, I brought my mummy bag, and the mummy bag was good to be around 20 degrees. And, there wasn't some like $200 mummy bag either. This is like what you consider big box store mummy bag. But it did all right, with enough layers and everything. I was fairly comfortable. I got up probably 3 or 4 times that night because my feet were cold, or I was cold, or maybe a noise woke me up. I don't know. But, I got up a couple times. And one of the times I got up, I went out and I got to see this glowing fungus at the base of a tree. And I'm just like looking down because, that's what you do when you're trying to use the restroom. And I see this glowing fungus. I was like, whoa, that's too wild. What is this? Right? Do my business, go back to bed. Next morning, we wake up and we start getting packing things up, and we're starting to make our breakfast. And if I remember right, I'm not even going to add that to it because it's just a little detail. I don't remember what we had for breakfast, but it was pretty meager all in all. It wasn't like steak and eggs or something. But while we're sitting around, I'm telling the story, like, guys, I woke up last night and I found this glowing fungus, man. Like, it was the coolest thing. Like, what? No way. So then our day starts, and the whole day we're hiking through these woods, and we're pretty lucky with our adult leadership in our troop because we had um, one of our leaders was or is an Army veteran, and he was really wanting us to earn the Ranger Award eventually. And the other person was actually his brother, and his brother is a wilderness expert, like legitimate skinny as a rail, very limber, has so much knowledge in his head about plants, tree identification, medicinal uses. Like, it is phenomenal, right? What this guy knew. So we're hiking throughout the woods and we're practicing different first aid scenarios, especially. We're using compass and map. We're learning how to um, mark trails in a primitive way, and all these other things. And by the end of the day, though, like talking like 3 or 4 o'clock, everybody's tired. And one particular scout was just dragging tails, like, I want to go home. I'm done. I'm done. My feet are sore. And he's like in tears because maybe he had blisters or something. Maybe his legs are just sore because he was one of the younger ones. Like, I'm done. I'm out. And we as a patrol had to do our job and help them, right? Because we are out in the middle of the woods. Like, no, man, you can't go home. You can't go home. This is during the time where there were some cell phones. The adults had them, maybe. I don't remember. But the kids definitely didn't have cell phones, right? So, like, can I go home? Can I go home? And the adults like, no, no, you're not going home. If nothing else, this is a great opportunity to learn what we've been practicing and what we can do about this, right? Because if you're really out in the wilderness, if you give up, well, that could be bad juju, right? And right now, you have people around you who can help you and get you through whatever you need to get through. And that's exactly what we did. Like, we told him, like, we can carry you if need be. We'll put a gurney together, and he didn't need that. He didn't. Never got to that point, but we pushed him, and he made it. He made it. None of us were really happy that weekend. Like, when we were doing it, there were like pockets of enjoyment, pockets of interesting things that happen. But when you're wet, you're cold, and it started snowing. It was freezing rain sometimes. It was just really sucky. But yeah, there's a but we got so much from it. We benefited so much from it. Not just the knowledge, all right? Let's take out all the knowledge because that's so easy to say. As a teacher, I tell students that all the time. Yeah, but you're going to have all this knowledge at the end of it, right? And the students, they don't care. I don't care about this knowledge, right? So let's take out the knowledge. How did we benefit from it? We grew a lot closer as a patrol and as a troop from that story. And if anybody missed it, well, they missed out on that story. They had no idea what went down, the struggles and the triumphs and things like that. They had no idea. And we learned so much about ourselves from it, like what we could push through and what our limits really were, not our perceived limits, but our what our real limits are. And we also, I think, got from it a sense of oh, I don't know what the word is, but achievement's not necessarily a word. We achieved things there, but just as a whole, we became better human beings from it. And it wasn't just because of ourselves, but it was because of the community. It was because of the group of people we were with, right? Like I was not an expert in everything. I had to rely on others who knew something, who could help me with something. Trying to build that shelter, I could have probably done it. But remember, I said it took like an hour and a half for like 5 or 6 of us to build that shelter. If I had to do it by myself, think how long that would take, right? And sure, some of it was just discussing what kind of shelter to build, but a lot of it had to just go getting materials and building it in itself. So think of that. Think of that. Now, I bring this up because we cannot know everything ourselves. We can only digest so much, right? We can only take in so much content, whether it be video content, auditoria content, um, reading, like whatever you're digesting or whatever. You can only digest so much. Having others who may have digested something different and teach you is a shortcut. Like it's a literal shortcut. Having people that you can rely on to support you. I mean, it's not cheating, but it certainly gives you an edge over other people, right? I didn't have to know everything. I didn't have to remember everything about the Wilderness Survival Merit Badge that we read and we practiced. Some things I forgot. Some things I remembered really well. But we had other members in the patrol and troop who could remember it, and we succeeded just wonderfully. If I had to do that by myself, then it would have been a lot worse. It would have been a much harder and possibly a terrible experience for me. But having two excellent leaders who supported us, having a group of other kids like myself who I could lean on for emotional support, moral support, intellectual support, etc., benefited me greatly. Now, as a teacher, peer-to-peer learning is extremely powerful. There's so many studies about that, and I've experienced it myself. When you pair a student up with someone who may be a little bit more knowledgeable about something, you as a teacher could tell that particular student who's weaker all the time over and over and over again, and maybe in 100 different ways, but having a peer do it sometimes, well, actually more often than not, it really does support them. It helps them in ways that you just can't do it as a teacher. You just can't. So it's it's something that I think as adults we may forget, or maybe we just don't know and we don't realize it. But when we rely on others instead of just relying on ourselves 100%, we can go a lot farther. So that brings me to a need, I think, in the camp crafting community, and that is, well, the last word, community. Finding ways where we can get together and start clubs, start groups, even just small get-togethers. Maybe not even like a whole weekend, but just like an hour or two workshops, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So that is something I am working really hard to bring the community. I am working really, really hard on starting something, a movement, if you will, that several members in the outdoor community have already joined, and I want to invite you to it. And that is the Traditional Campcrafters Guild. This is a paid community, and it is a tool, such a powerful, powerful tool that is so different from Facebook and other social media platforms. It is specifically designed for people to network and to improve each other in one way or another. There is a possibility of having courses. I'm going to put 2 courses on there for sure, and it's going to teach people how to start clubs, right? How to maintain clubs, and there's going to be um, documents supplied for that. I'm a teacher, right? So we have documents that'll help you, like checklists and things like that. That way, it'll give you a good start. And we're going to have courses on how to create events. So if you want to create an event, that's going to be part of it. But on top of that, we're going to have workshops and we're going to have paid speakers. It's a paid community. So that means that we can actually go outside of the community, bring in high quality speakers and talk to us. And it's kind of like a roundtable, if you will. In the Civil War community, when I say community, I'm not just talking about living history and reenactors. I'm just talking about people who love Civil War. Roundtables are a big thing in with people who really enjoy Civil War, and they bring in speakers from all over the country to talk about different officers or different battles or artifacts or what have you. That's what I'm envisioning, but on a larger scale. So I'm inviting you to join the Traditional Campcrafters Guild. It's a guild that I created. I'm maintaining it, and because of its paid membership, it has a lot of pros that other social medias just don't have. They can't offer. Now, free social media is fine, but it has its limits, right? I invite you to at least try out the free 5-day membership to see if you like it, participate, play around with the different tools, create posts and stuff. That way you can see all the potential that it has. And of course, check out what members are on there because one of the things that this community is going to be really good at is networking. So if you want to start a club or if you want to have a meetup with other people in traditional camp crafting, or maybe you're a bush crafter because there's it's broken up. It's not just one big swimming pool. It is broken up. You have your general campcraft discussions. You have your historical campcraft discussions right now, and you have bushcrafting or woodcraft. It has a buy sell trade and all this other stuff on it. We have a library on there. Like this is a mecca for traditional camp crafters. And the more members that we get, the bigger and better it's going to be. It's going to be a hive mind. Like it is going to expedite your learning. It's going to expedite your skills. It's going to expedite your relationships, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So much more. Just kind of like my story before, where I, you know, I could have struggled really, really bad, but just having people around me to support me, to guide me, to help me, and in return, it's not just a take, 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 take relationship. It's a give, give, give relationship. I'm also contributing to the overall success of the community. That is what the Traditional Campcrafters Guild is. Another story. Here's my second story to try to give you another idea of what it may be like that you're feeling right now. Okay. If you are someone who would like to get with other people, maybe you're shy, maybe you're an introvert, maybe you're an extrovert, you just don't know how to do it, or you don't know other people. I know lots of people who like to camp, but their family just doesn't like to camp. They don't, or vice versa, with bushcrafting or anything else. So maybe you need help finding your people. And that's what this group's all about. So here's my story. I'm 14 years old. It's 1999, and I earned my Eagle Scout in 1999, and it was fall camporee, so it was in like October or September or something like that, and they were recognizing the Eagles of that year at this camporee. One of the special things they had there was a Civil War reenactment group to present these certificates and just acknowledge, the Eagle Scouts. Now, I gotta tell you, man, I've always been fascinated with the Civil War, at least as far as I can remember. And I met reenactors before. I was at an event, I think up in Columbus, and there was these Revolutionary War reenactors. And I went to the Revolutionary War reenactors, like, this is awesome. Tell me about this. And I don't think they really knew what I was exactly asking, or maybe they did. They just didn't know how to handle some kid because at that point I was pretty young. But anyhow, it's like, man, I want to do what you guys do. But I never got any information. It never went any farther than that. Of me just saying what you guys are doing is really cool. Your uniforms are really cool. Never went beyond that. So the invitation wasn't extended. It's kind of like the Masonic. So I'm a Freemason, and there used to be this whole old adage, ask one to be one. You can't just invite somebody to lodge, right? Now that's kind of shifting in some ways, but don't want to get lost in the weeds there. But that's kind of like how it is. Maybe I just didn't know how to ask at that time. But at this particular camp out with the scouts and me getting my certificate, I got the courage. I went up to him and like, man, thank you so much for what you guys have done. And I appreciate the certificate. I love this stuff. This is so exciting. Like, I would really like to get into this. And the adults and some of the kids there are like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's cool. Well, our season's pretty much done, but, we have our spring training event. And I tell you what, you give us your phone number and everything. And when we get the details, because we're still planning it out, we'll let you know. I'm like, all right. So I give down my phone number, and I didn't have a cell phone, right? This was before cell phones. So out of the blue, my parents get this phone call, and I don't remember if they answered it or if it was on the voice machine back then. But anyhow, my dad and mom were like, "Hey, Sean, did you ask about this Civil War reenactment thing?" I was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, yeah." This is like in February. I think it was in February because the training event was in April. I was like, "Yeah, yeah, I remember that. I remember that." I was like, "Well, they just let us know what the date is and everything, and gave us some details." And it really wasn't that far away from where we lived. It was about an hour away, but it wasn't that far. We're not talking about like 2, 3 hours, right? So my parents were like, "Well, if we can swing it, we'll try to make that happen for you." I'm like, "Oh, thank you, thank you." I'm really excited and pumped, and it just so happens that that year for Christmas, my parents got me my very first gun, and it was an 1863 Remington. I still own it. I name it Marietta. That's her name. So an 1863 Remington is not actually historically accurate for Civil War reenacting because even though it was made during the American Civil War, they weren't actually issued until post Civil War. Anyhow, so I go to this event. It's in April, and it's a beautiful day overall. We get there early in the morning, and they have this loaner gear for me. So they put on the jacket for me. I'm borrowing the cartridge box and the cap box. I have my own rifle, and they even gave me gunpowder rounds because I don't even know how to really use the rifle, right? So they teach me the drill. We go through all the steps and everything, and we have our little skirmish with another reenactment group there. And, long story short, I was, like, the happiest kid ever. Like, it's like going to Disney World. Yeah, like, I was just that excited, that happy. And the whole day, I'm asking these barrage of questions, and I'm learning about the material culture. I'm learning about really the social structure of that particular group and everything. And, in the end, the day's done. I have to give my uniform back and everything. And my parents are saying, "Man, did you have fun, Sean?" "Oh, yeah, I loved it. This was the best. Thank you so much for bringing me. I appreciate it a lot." And younger people, because there's several younger people in the group, they came along my age and say, "Hey, can he stay the night?" My parents are like, "Whoa, I don't know about that. Like, he's just here for the day. We don't have a sleeping bag or anything else, and it's going to be cold tonight." And the kids right away like, "No, we got it. We have extra stuff for him." And some of the adults from the group said, "Yeah, we got extra blankets. If he wants to stay, let him stay. That'd be fun. That'd be perfectly fine. We'll feed him and everything." And my parents talk it over for a few minutes, and I'm just like, big doe eyed, like, "Please, please, please," And in the end, they say, yeah, they give me the okay. And I'm so thankful they did that because it literally changed my life. It literally changed my life. That's why I'm here today talking to you and all this stuff behind me and teaching you guys about history because it literally was a pivotal moment in my life and impacted me greatly. And that night, I froze to death because they didn't have a sleeping bag. I just got like these cotton comforters, these extra cotton comforters over me. And I must have got up probably like 5 or 6 times that night to go by the fire and try to warm up. I thought I was going to freeze to death because it got down in the low 20s that day or that night. It was crazy. right? It was absolutely crazy. And anyhow, get up the next morning. I eat breakfast with him. We do a little bit more training. I learn a little bit about the artillery cannon and how it all works and the drill with that. And I had to go home. I had to go home. And it, if it wasn't for that group, first of all, inviting me, but also supporting me in lots of different ways. They supported me with material goods, right? They supported me with intellectual goods because they were teaching me how to do all these things. They were very welcoming. They were very excited to have me there. And they actually followed through with the invitation, right? They followed through. And it's moments like that that make me think about how important a community is, how valuable having others to support you, to give you what you need, and just really build, like, build that sense of a group, like a family mentality, right? I've been involved in scouting, I've been involved in living history, and even though scouting is like a small family, like our troop, our pack, or whatever is like a small family, and sometimes you may have brother troops that extend some of that same family feeling. It doesn't really go beyond your troop, right? For the most part. Sometimes it's a little different, but for the most part. But my experiences in Civil War reenacting is so different. My experiences in early 20th century camping has been different than that. Like as soon as you go to an event, like your family, like everybody's like waving, you're sharing coffee. You might walk by with a cup of, with your cup and someone's like, "Hey, would you like a cup of coffee?" Yeah. And you go over and they pour you a cup of coffee and you just start talking. Maybe something happened on the battlefield during a Civil War reenactment and you see that same guy that you shot at, 20 minutes before and you're having a big laugh. Um, One little side story. I was at a reenactment. I'm doing my medical impression, and I'm Union, and there's this Confederate soldier, and he's pretending that he's dying. He's like, "Oh," right, and I'm trying to give some aid to it, and the public could see it, but not really all that close. Like we're pretty far distance. And it's like, "Don't you die on me! Don't you die on me!" And I literally kind of gave the guy a slap across the face, to kind of jostle him because he's like fading out, so to speak. And he was so shocked. And honestly, I thought like, "Oh god, I might have went too far on that one." But after the after the battle and everything, he came up to me, shook my hands like, "That was so good, man. Thank you for that. That was such a great experience," and all this other stuff. Um, and that's the kind of relationship and camaraderie and fun that I see this traditional campcrafting guild do for people. I think this is a start of a movement. And I want you to experience some of those great things that I've experienced, that sense of camaraderie and family and shared interest and excitement, like literal excitement, because there's no better feeling in the world than being around your people. When you're around your people, you're at your best. There's just something about it. And we want to be home for you. We want you to join us. It's a professional group. It's it might be considered like family friendly group, right? But it's a professional group. So, keyboard warriors and trolls and things like that, that's not welcome. And it's going to be about bettering each other and bettering ourselves. And we're going to have paid speakers come on once the group grows and we get the funds in there. We're going to put the funds back into the group. So it's going to have like that Civil War roundtable feel. We're going to have courses on there. Some are going to be free, some are going to be paid. We're going to have just what would you call them? I guess live. We're going to have live streams, right? As part of it. Workshops. That's the word I'm looking for. We're going to have workshops on there. Eventually, we're going to have summits. So that means we'll like break out into different rooms. It's kind of like a little video conference, right? And once things get really going, we're going to have literal conferences and summits and get-togethers, and I'm going to support people and putting them on, and hopefully, eventually, I'll even be able to put on my own, right? As people start joining, and locally, people will be able to get together and find each other, it's going to grow. And that's where the networking comes in. That's where the education side comes in. And it's going to be a great thing. And I would love for you to be a part of it. If you're interested, check out the description box below or check out the video description because it's at the ground floor. It's only going to get more expensive. You know, years go on, inflation goes on, but once you join, you're locked into that price point forever. That's it. Like you're golden, right? So I hope that excites you. I'm excited. I'd be excited to see you on there and talk to you in person. It has a free 5-day trial. So after 5 days, if you're looking around like, I don't really think this is the thing. Right now, it's brand new. We have a pretty small group right now, but it's going to get bigger. And you and your voice and your experiences and everything's very valuable. We'd love to have you be a part of it with us. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you guys have a wonderful week and give a kiss and hug to your loved ones. And I will see you guys next time. Take care.